Welcome students. So here we are going to first discuss about today the ionic compounds. This is the topic for your metals and non-metal chapter, and we are going to discuss about here ionic compounds. So ionic compound, how they are formed, what are they? Let's discuss about this. So first, before discussing about ionic compounds, I want to draw your attention towards the ions. What are ions? So the species which are formed due to losing or gaining of electrons from an isolated gaseous atom is called ion. Ions are of generally two types. Okay, ions are of two types. Are of two types. The positive ions are called cations, and the negative ions are termed as anions. Okay, so these ion can be of two types, but the ions can be more classified on the basis of the types of atom they are. Okay, so ions classification on the number of atoms they are having. So here first is the monoatomic ions. Ions formed by single atom. Okay, ions formed by single atoms are called monoatomic ions. Monoatomic ions. For example, sodium ion, chloride ion, bromide ion, nitride ion, oxide ion, aluminium ion, magnesium ion, calcium ion. Okay, so these are some of the examples for the monoatomic ions, where the ions are formed by single atoms only. Okay, next is classification for the ions is the polyatomic ions. Okay, next classification is the polyatomic ions. Polyatomic ions. So the polyatomic ions formed by two or more atoms. Two or more atoms. They are termed as polyatomic ions, and here the examples can be number one is here. For the polyatomic ions, number one example is SO4 2 minus, SO3 2 minus, NO3 1 minus, NH4 1 plus OH1 minus, etc. So here we can see that the two or more atoms are combining here to form a ion here. So these type of ions are termed as polyatomic ions. Okay. So these are the different types of ions. Now let's talk about why they are forming the ions. What is the reason that they are forming the ions? So reason for formation of ions. So I want to bring your attention towards the octet rule. So what the octet rule was saying? The octet rule has said that the outermost valence shell of an atom must contain 8 electrons. Okay, the outermost valence shell of an atom must contain 8 electrons. So this is the rule that the outermost valence shell of an atom must contain only 8 electrons. Okay, so this is known as the octet rule. So in order to do this thing, in order to attain the 8 electrons in their outermost shell, the atoms loses or gains electrons. They will lose or they will gain the electrons. Okay. Here, one more thing, main thing is that the gaining and losing of electron is to obtain the nearest inert gas configuration. So, what are the inert gases? Inert gases, or in other words, we can call them as noble gases also. They are both the same. So, noble gases or inert gases are the elements which have fully filled outermost shells. Fully filled outermost shells by 8 with 8 electrons. Okay, so for example, helium, sorry, not helium, helium is having only 2 electrons. Okay, the example can be start from neon, number 10, electronic configuration 2 comma 8. Argon, atomic number 18, electronic number 2 comma 8 comma 8. Next is your argon krypton 36, 2 comma 8 comma 18 comma 8. Okay, so like this we can see that here are some of the atoms which are having fully filled outermost shells there. Okay, energy levels, outermost energy levels or outermost cells. So every atom by losing or gaining electron tries to achieve the inert gas configuration. Okay, they try to achieve this inert gas electronic configuration, and in order to achieve this inert gas electronic configuration they will either lose electron or they will either gain electron. So on losing electron we will see that the number of electron decreases and positive charge increases. Similarly, on gaining electrons, number of electron increases and positive charge decreases. So hence, on losing electron, we add a positive sign. Okay, add positive sign equal to the number of electron loosed. Okay, and on gaining electron, we add negative sign is equals to the number of electrons gained. Okay, so this is the rule there, that the number of electrons lose out there, we will add that number, that particular amount of loosed ion electrons there as the positive sign there in the case of losing of electron, and in the case of adding of electrons we will just add the number of electrons there which is being given out. Okay, so this is the rule to form the ions here. That's why this is the reason why ions has been formed out here. So how to represent this? How to represent this? So first we are going to discuss here for the representation of the formation of ion. We are going to discuss about the Lewis dot diagram. Lewis dot diagram. Okay. So in the Lewis dot diagram, what we will do in the Lewis dot diagram, we will start here with the Lewis dot diagram, and here in the Lewis dot diagram, the symbol of elements are used. The symbol of elements are used with either dot or cross sign, with either dot or cross sign to represent the number of valence electron. Okay, to represent the number of valence electron in that atom. So for example, if I want to represent for hydrogen the Lewis dot diagram, so here I will use one dot or either one cross sign to represent that only one electron is been present in the outermost shell of the hydrogen. Similarly, for lithium, one electron is present, so I will use one dot sign or one cross sign to represent the lithium also. Similarly, for magnesium, two electrons are present, so here I will use two dots or two cross signs to represent the outermost electrons, that is two electrons present in the magnesium. Similarly, for chlorines, total 7 outermost electrons are present, so here I will first give one electron in the clockwise direction, then I will start to form the pairs here. So the three pairs will be formed out here with one unpaired electron, or by dot, the same rule will be there, four dots, then the pairing of dot will start out here, and we will form a chlorine ion. Okay, chlorine atom here representing the Lewis dot diagram. So these are the representation of the atoms with the Lewis dot diagram. So using this Lewis dot diagram, how we can form a ionic reaction? Okay, how we can form a chemical reaction which is forming a chemical ionic compound. So for example, I am showing the formation of NaCl, which is an ionic compound, the sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. So sodium is having one electron in its outermost shell, represented by this one dot. The sodium will release or lose its one electron to attain a +1 charge here, and it will form a cation, that is a sodium cation will be formed out here. Similarly, the electron which is being loosed out there from the sodium, it will be accepted by an electron atom. So okay, it will be accepted by a chlorine atom to form a chloride ion. Okay, so on summating these two equations, on summating these two chemical equations, we will see that On the opposite sides electrons are there, so it will get cancelled out here, and the left out things will be written as such only by adding the atoms. So the compound which is formed out here, it will be Na plus, which is been combined with Cl minus, which can be also represented as NaCl. Okay, let's take one more example for magnesium, which is losing two electrons to form magnesium cation. Okay, magnesium cation. This is not O, this is a dot. Okay, this is a dot. Then oxygen here, okay, oxygen here, which is having 6 electrons in its outermost shell. So 6 electron means 2 unpaired electrons will be there. So it will attain this 2 electron which is loosed out by the magnesium ion there, and it will form a anion of oxygen by accepting these 2 electrons. Okay, so this will be the formation of magnesium oxide here. When these two equations is being submitted out, so we will form magnesium oxide plus oxygen with 6 outermost electrons gives Mg2 plus, which has been reacted with the oxygen's anion to form magnesium oxide. Okay, so to balance the equation, you can just use this. This is the balanced chemical equation. Okay. Similarly, we can see reaction of sodium with oxygen also. So oxygen will require 2 electrons to form an ion of oxygen. But here in the case of sodium, only 1 electron is being released out. So we will multiply the above equation with 2 here to obtain 2 electrons. And these 2 electrons will be getting out, cancelled out here. So the left out things, that is 2Na, will react with 1 oxygen atom to form sodium oxide, that is Na2O, is been formed. Okay, so these are the way to represent the ionic equation. Okay, ionic compounds formation by the using of Lewis dot structure. Now let's see what is the ionic bond. What is the definition for the ionic bond? So the ionic bond, the chemical bond chemical bond formed due to electrostatic force of attraction between the chemical bond formed due to electrostatic force of attraction between a cation and an anion is called an ionic bond. So On the basis of this, the ionic compounds will be the compounds which are formed due to formation of ionic bonds. Ionic bonds are called ionic compounds. Are called ionic compounds. Okay, so these are the ionic compounds. So on the basis of the different examples, I have explained you what are the ionic compounds. Now let's see about the properties of the ionic compounds. Okay, let's talk about the properties of the ionic compounds. So the properties of the ionic compound. Okay, let's talk about the properties of the ionic compound. So first, the first property of the ionic compound. Ionic compounds are generally solid. Okay, they are generally solid and they are also crystalline solid. Specifically, they are crystalline solids. Okay, as you know that NaCl, KCl, all these are generally forming crystals. Okay, so they are crystalline solid. Magnesium chloride also forms crystals. So they are crystalline solids. Ionic compounds are forming crystalline solids. The reason is that they are having greater force of attraction. Okay, they are having greater force of electrostatic force of attraction between the anions and cations, which are strongly bonded with each other. Okay, which are strongly bonded with each other, and hence we found that they are forming solids. Next, ionic compounds are brittle. So due to presence of this strong force of attraction, strong electrostatic force of attraction, they are very brittle in nature. Okay, they are very brittle in nature. They become very hard. Okay, they become very hard due to the presence of this electrostatic force of attraction, and they are also forming, the brittle nature is due to presence of lattice there, crystal lattice. Okay, lattice means, for example, NaCl is having a lattice structure which will be represented something like this. Can you imagine a cube? Okay, so a cube, it will represent the lattice for a NaCl. So here the 8 corners of this cube will be containing one Na plus ion here, and in between two NaCl, in between two, one Cl ion will be present out there. Okay, one Cl ion will be present out there. I am representing this Cl ion with a red dot here. So the black dots are representing the sodium ion, while the red dots are representing here the chloride ion here. Okay, so you can easily imagine which kind of structure it will be. So this is forming, this is termed as one lattice. This is one lattice. Like this, millions and millions of lattice combines with each other to form a crystal. Okay, to form a crystal, a single crystal is been formed out by joining such millions and millions of lattices. Okay, so due to this reason, when we hit ionic compound with hammer, what will happen? The crystal will break up into these lattices and their structure will not convert. Okay, their structure, and they are having very hard nature. The lattices, the crystals are having very hardness, they are very hard, and due to this reason, when we hit it by a hammer, what will happen? They will just break out into simple geometrical shapes. Okay, like this here it is cube, the cuboid can be there, hexagonal shapes can be there. Okay, so like this only, they are forming geometric shapes, and they are broken up into geometric shapes like that, and hence we will say that the ionic compounds are brittle. Okay, they are brittle in nature. Next, ionic compounds have high melting and boiling point temperature. What is the reason behind this? The reason is that as they are containing strong electrostatic force of attraction between the ions which are constituting an ionic compound, so hence the melting point and the boiling point will be also very high for the ionic compounds. And this is the reason that the bond between the ionic ions which are present in the ionic compound, it is very very strong, and to break that bond high amount of energy is required, and hence the melting point and boiling point temperature also becomes high. Next, ionic compounds are generally easily dissolvable. It is easily soluble in water. What is the reason behind this? The reason is that water is a polar solvent. Water is termed as a polar solvent. So what is this polar solvent? So the structure of water is something like this. Oxygen being a very electronegative element. Okay, what is electronegative element? Element which can attract electron towards itself in order to accept the electrons. Okay, so here we know that covalent bond has been formed between hydrogen and oxygen to form water here. So two atoms of hydrogen are attached with oxygen, one single oxygen, to form two covalent bonds here, okay. So here, this shared electrons, okay, this shared electron between hydrogen and oxygen, what will happen out here? Here, the oxygen will attract the electrons towards itself, okay, and due to this reason, what will happen? The electron density towards the oxygen will increase, and it will attain a very small negative charge, and opposite to that, the small positive charge will be attained up by the hydrogen atoms, and this phenomena will be possessed by each molecule of the water. Okay, this phenomena will be possessed up by the each molecule of the water. So hence, what will happen? It will behave as a polar compound. Okay, it will be having polarity here, plus and minus charge will be generated out there, and such kind of compounds are termed as polar compounds. And as it is behaving as a solvent, it is one of the good solvents, so it will be termed as a polar solvent. So the polar solvents, such as like water, they are able to dissolve polar compounds in them. They are able to make soluble polar compounds in it. And as we know that the crystalline solids are formed from ions only, so they are also a type of polar compound only. So hence, when the polar compounds are uh, dissolved in water, they will easily get soluble in water there due to their polar natures. But when we will try to dissolve the ionic compounds in the kerosene or in the petrol, which are termed as the organic solvents, ether, kerosene, petrol. Okay, if we are trying to dissolve the ionic compounds in them, then it is not possible to dissolve them in them, because the reason is that these solvents are termed as non-polar solvents, and the non-polar solvents will not be capable of separating the ionic compounds into their ions, and hence they are insoluble in organic solvents like kerosene, petrol, ether, etc. Next, ionic compounds do not conduct electricity in the solid state. In the solid state, we will see here that in the solid state, they are having neutral state. No charge is present there. Both the charges have neutralized each other, and hence we will say that in the solid state, generally the ionic compounds are neutral. They are neutral. And in their neutral state, means in their solid state, they are insulators. They are behaving like an insulators. But when they are dissolved in water, they are in their ionic state, or when they are in their molten state. Okay, so it is termed as fused state, and the fused state can be either in the molten form of ionic compounds or either in the aqueous solution, aqueous, aqueous solution form. Okay, in the aqueous solution form. So in both these condition, we will see that they are in their ionic form, and hence they are having charges there, and so they can conduct their electricity. Okay, so the ionic compounds in their fused state are good conductors. So these are some of the properties of the ionic compounds which I have discussed with you. So this is the end for your ionic compound chapter, metals and non-metal chapter, and I will provide you the notes in the next class. So thank you for watching this video. We will meet up in the next class. Thank you.